In the last few months, we've had a number of town projects occurring on town properties. Let's take a tour around town with James Keast, our facilities director. Hi, James.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good. And here we are at probably the Keystone project, which is Blair Square. How do you feel now that it's all here?
It looks great, doesn't it? I mean, we've heard nothing but wonderful comments from the community about this project. I believe the last time we were here, we were standing over in that corner. Everything was sort of torn up. It was covered in snow, and it's so nice to see this completed park. And it's a wonderful gathering spot for folks in town, and a lot of folks that come from out of town that use the rail trail to come through. They can take a rest here at the pavilion. They can fill up their water bottle. There's even an area where the dogs can get a drink of water.
That's right.
And certainly they can go from here off to various businesses in town, like Coffee Haven, or up Central Street to the Superette in that area.
Yeah, definitely. I have to say, I don't think I've ever seen a town with this kind of a center around. This is something unique, isn't it?
Yes, it is very, very unique, and it's already being heavily utilized, which is great. Number of events, and if those that are listening in town, if they want to book an event here, they go through the Parks and Recreation Department. You go onto their website. There's a calendar where you can check to see availability, as well as reserve the square for any particular event you may have.
That's really good to know. I didn't know that. The flowers are, of course, one of the most incredible things. Who's taking care of these flowers?
So it's a team effort. So the grounds and the general perennials and annuals and through here are taken care of by our highway department, which is there's a buildings and grounds division within the highway department. The flowers and the mums, and you'll see them change out year after year down at the end here at the beginning of the park, are taken care of by Bobby Blair and Aronian Landscaping. So it's a big volunteer effort to beautify the town. That's really what makes Holliston great. It's an army of volunteers that help beautify this area as well as other areas around town.
Right, and that's the whole impetus for this area was supported by an army of volunteers who had a vision and made it happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's super. Now, tell me about some other things that we mentioned the last time we met. One of the big ones was the downtown sewer project. We're not going to go there because that was kind of a smelly place. Here, this is prettier. Tell me what's happening. What's the status there?
So right now we have preliminary layouts of what piping would look like. And piping, the way that this system is being proposed to be designed isn't the big, pipes that go in the ground. They're smaller, 1 and 2 inch, low pressure forced mains, if you will, that would take effluent from homes and businesses and push it into a smaller pipe. And then pump it out to the treatment plant, which we saw last time on Linden Street. Right now, as of this week, and probably already received once this hits the air, are surveys and letters going to all of the folks that are within the village commercial area to allow those folks, primarily the businesses, to interject of what their needs are going to be for their property either now or in the future, because we need to understand what the capacity is going to be, because there's not an infinite amount of capacity at the plant. So if we have a property over here that's currently office space, but they want to turn it into a restaurant, that makes a big difference on the demand on the system, going into the system. So we need to gather that information. So that's where we are now. We're also working with the DEP because they have to approve the discharge into the ground. It's called a groundwater discharge permit. So once the plant treats the waste, it then gets dispersed into the ground, much like a traditional leaching system at a home, but on a much bigger scale. And that's the limiting factor. The plant can process as much as we can. We just need to have a place to put all that clean water or treated water. And so that's what we're doing right now. Our goal is to have that finalized by the end of the year and possibly go into the spring with some formal design plans and agreements with property owners, that be it businesses or residents along the route, and form this sewer district.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this is moving along nicely.
Yes, it is.
Now that people get those letters in the mail, it's going to really spark interest, I'm
Yes,
sure.
absolutely.
They're going to say, this is really happening,
Yes.
hopefully.
No,
Yeah.
I feel confident. I'm a resident in town, as well as I work for the town. I feel quite confident that this, we're taking sort of baby steps to try to get this process going, and getting sewer to a very critical area of downtown. The whole goal of this is to promote business growth in our village commercial area, drive in growth in businesses and expansion in terms of types of businesses that can be utilize that space.
Right, that's great. Okay, what about streetlights? Where are we with that?
So we're substantially complete. It's been a big project. What has created some challenges, as you can see throughout town. A number of the high tension lines have been replaced.
Okay.
Poles have been replaced. And when that happens, Eversource or their contractor took down the street lights. And so when our contractor came through, they'd say, hey, there's no street light here, we can't convert it. So they're now putting the street lights back up. So we're finding that the old lights are going back up, so we have to send our contractor back out to put up the lights.
With the new light, with the new light bulb.
Yeah, with the new
LED
head fixture,
yeah.
the LED fixture. So our hope is within the next 2 weeks to have that complete. There were a number of fixtures in town. Even Eversource didn't realize when we bought the fixtures from Eversource, didn't realize they existed. So there are, example, there are several fixtures on Robin Hill Road and on Briarcliff Road that have streetlights that were basically undocumented.
Oh, yeah.
And so we have to go through the process of getting them added to the list and then go through the conversion process. So that's what's taking the time.
And so that, once again, is a win because that means less energy use for the town with this conversion.
Absolutely. Significant less energy use, and it really makes things really beneficial is that there's minimal out-of-pocket cost to the town. So the cost of purchasing the lights and the cost of doing the retrofit and conversion is being covered through a Green Communities grant, as well as rebate incentives we're getting from Eversource. Everyone, even the town, part of your electric bill has sort of a green energy component or renewable energy component. You pay into this fund. We are then getting that money back as credit in terms of a rebate or an incentive for doing this conversion. So it's a win-win all the way around.
Definitely, yeah. What was the other thing we're going to talk about? We're going to talk about...
Well, we had a project going on with the school roofs on Woodland Street. So those roofs are over 20 years old. They're made up of asphalt shingle sections of roofs, as well as a flat section of the roof. We're going through, because it's expensive to replace these roofs, so we're going through a multi-year approach to replace those roofs. We've just completed or substantially completed replacing the asphalt shingle sections of the Placentino roof, as well as an area of the cafetorium roof, both of which have developed leaks over the years. So that's great news. And the biggest exciting part of doing all this is once those roofs go up and we can take care of the flat roofs, which are going to be a spring town meeting warrant, so we're going to put solar up on the roofs. And so we're working with a solar contractor or a consultant now to figure out what's the best way. Should the town own the panels? Should we go in through a lease agreement? And so we're working through that now. But the good news is that we're going to have these new roofs up there. They're going to accept these solar panels to help offset electricity use at the schools, as well as divert it through the rest of the town.
Oh, okay. So it'll be sort of going through the schools first, and then if there's any left over, it would be... Yeah,
we're going to have to work that out. But definitely, the biggest time when we're going to be producing solar is during the summer. Schools are not in session, so you have the ability, if we own the system through net metering, feed back and allocate it to various locations throughout town to offset that that electrical consumption. So
fantastic.
It's pretty cool stuff.
It is great. Well, let's go to our next plot.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
James, we were here a while ago and we were talking about this pond and the dam and the repairs that needed to be made. Things have changed since then. What happened?
Yeah, so, Murphy got in the way here.
Yeah.
So what had happened is that all along we knew that this dam needed to be rehabilitated, and we're in the process of planning for that. We also knew that the culvert, which carries the water from over the dam under the street and out to the brook, was going to need to be redone, which included the bridge. But what happened is the bridge was inspected by the state, and they said, you know what, it's not safe for vehicular traffic, and they shut it down. And so we went through several iterations of putting up a temporary bridge to try to keep traffic flowing, and the cost of doing that and the delay to just move forward with doing the whole project together, be the bridge and the dam, the town decided, or the select board decided, that it's best interest of the town, keep the road closed and move forward as fast as we can with the project to repair the dam, replace the spillway, and put on a new bridge.
All at the same time?
All at the same time, that's
okay.
correct.
So where are we in that project now, process?
So, part of the process, there's several entities involved in terms of the permitting. This is not a cheap project, so we're trying to get as much funding as possible. So in the spring, we applied for a small bridge grant through the Mass Department of Transportation that required us to have 25% of this project designed. And again, the dam and the bridge, which we achieved.
Oh, great.
And our next milestone, and hopefully within the next month or so, we will have the design of this project at 75% completion. There are a number of folks that need to interject on this design, which is our own town conservation commission, the Mass DOT, the Office of Dam Safety, and the Army Corps of Engineers.
Wow.
All have to review this. So once we get their approval and certification to proceed, we're hoping to have 100% designed by the end of the year, at which point we can go into a bid process.
Go out for bid, okay.
To go out for bid, and the construction timeline is estimated for 8 months.
Wow, excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that it's something that was definitely needed, and it sounds like it's well on its way.
It's well on its way. Our goal is to do this project with 100% funding, either through the state or through grants, so no out-of-pocket costs for the town.
To the town.
And that's looking quite favorable at this point.
Great. Good.
Our goal is obviously to try to get this open as soon as possible, but there are a lot of moving pieces, a lot of folks that have to give their stamp of approval, a lot of different entities are involved, because there's environmental impacts, there's bridge impacts, there's roadway impacts, so it's a complicated process, and certainly appreciate the town's patience while we work through all this.
Gosh, the front of this firehouse looks fantastic now. Tell us what was going on here.
So I think the last time we were here, we took some shots of the whole driveway here all torn up. The sidewalk had this significant slope to it. There was a curb over where the crosswalk went across the street. There was a ramp here in the beginning that was heading up to the door that was not compliant to ADA requirements.
Oh yeah, it was very steep, right?
Yeah, it was very steep.
Yeah.
And so this project's complete. You can see that we have paved the entire surface, leveled out the sidewalk, put in a compliant transition strip to the crosswalk, and the big thing here is that we now have a compliant access, ADA access to the building, and we were able to incorporate a couple parking spots.
Oh really? Even parking too? That's awesome.
Yeah.
But my question is, when this was going on, where did you guys put the equipment?
It was scattered throughout town. We had some equipment in the back. We had some other equipment parked at the DPW location on Arch Street.
Oh, boy.
We had the ladder truck was actually put in standby surface, and so that if there was a need for the ladder truck, we would contact mutual support from a neighboring community.
Oh, okay.
It was about 3 weeks or so that there was this disruption, which is pretty good for a project of this magnitude and size. We had to do
Right.
substantial digging in here to get the right footings for
Yeah.
this ramp. So it's a pretty involved project.
Yeah, and it looks great now too. And it's adding to something called the Central Street
Corridor. So
Yeah.
there is a grant that was awarded to the town to improve the crosswalks and sidewalks all the way from Washington Street down Central Street to Blair Square. This is a portion of it, this sidewalk, but we'll continue down Central Street. Really the goal is to take folks from the Blair Square area and provide a nice, comfortable walking surface for them to go visit the businesses downtown.
What's better than that?
That's excellent.
That's great.
Yes, it is.
Super.
This spring, we're hoping to have the facade area repaired. We have a contractor that's going to start in the fall. Hopefully they can finish it before the weather turns. But you can see some of the spalling that you see on some of the stucco and stonework.
Yep.
That's to be addressed next.
Okay. Oh, the fire chief must be very happy.
Yes, he is.
Good.
Yes, he is.
All right. History is never very far from Holliston. Tell me what you found when you were digging here for this foot.
So we were digging underneath here for the footing. We had to go down about 6 to 7 feet.
Wow.
And we found things like old horseshoes, old leaf springs from like horse and carriages and whatnot. And we found several bottles. And here's a bottle that's quite interesting. It says the Echo Bottling Company, Holliston, Mass. And I've taken this to our local historian,
Joanne.
Joanne Hobart, yes, to see if we can get more information on this Echo Bottling Company that was in Holliston, Mass. And she's still doing the research. But if any of our viewers know about a bottling company that was in Holliston, and who knows when this was, maybe turn of the century, maybe a little after the previous century.
Who knows?
Who knows? So
what were they drinking back then?
I don't know, but it's a pretty cool artifact that we found when doing the digging for this area.
That's neat. Very cool.
Yeah.
I'll have to let you know what we find out, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So here are a number of the things we found. You can see here we have a old glass transformer that was used for electric lines, a horseshoe. We didn't find the horse. And all sorts of various bottles. Here's an Imperial toilet water perfume bottle. The Holliston Echo Bottling Company bottle. Some unmarked smaller bottles. Some little tiny, I don't know if they're perfume or some sort of medicine bottles. Here's one that still has its lid that's a little rusted. But all sorts of various things that were found when we dug up. Here's another old bottle. Again, there's no marking on it, but you can see some of the air bubbles within the glass. This has got to be very, very old.
James, the last time I was here with you, this was just a hole in the ground. Look at what's happening now.
Yeah, no, we've come a long way. So as you can see, we have the general outline of the parking lot. This over here is our ramp to allow folks that are in the parking lot to work their way up to Green Street. Up along the Green Street area, you can see we have a couple park benches and a bike rack. We're really looking at this area as an extension of the Goodwill Park, which is behind you.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah. So, really it's all part of the initiative to tie in the park, as well as provide parking for downtown businesses. Unfortunately, we're sort of at a stall right now. We can see that the pavement is just in what's called a binder course. It still needs to be raised another couple inches with a final coat. And we're waiting for a utility pole to be installed over sort of where that decorative light fixture is now. So it'll bring power from that telephone pole over to the utility pole. And once that's set, we can then finish this ramp and allow access to the parking lot. But as long as you're talking about power, the power is going to feed a transformer, which is over in this corner right here.
Yeah.
That transformer is going to feed some lighting, and you can see the lighting over here, the bases. That lighting is the exact same lighting as the decorative lighting downtown. So
Good.
That again will tie in.
Yep.
And the most exciting part is the power is going to feed electric vehicle charging station.
Right there.
So there are 3 of them provisioned there. We're going to put in one now, the one over here in the corner to the left. And then that's going to be a pay-for-use charging station. And it's usually done by a telephone application on the phone.
Oh, okay.
And so, you pay for that. It's a very reasonable price. You're basically paying for the electricity. And it'll give you notifications that your car's almost done charging or how long it's going to take to charge.
So you could go to the Superette and charge your car?
Yes.
Or go to the library and charge your car?
Or go to the park and charge your car.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
This has so many uses. It's just exciting. You've got a park, you've got electric vehicle charging, you've got sorely needed parking for downtown.
Yes, we do.
And what about, and is there a picnic area going to be over here?
Over here, obviously the table's not there, but there's going to be a table here. You can grab a sandwich from the Superette and sit down here and grab a bite to eat. Next to the picnic table, you'll see that area with water. That's a water collection area. We're calling it a rain garden because there'll be grasses and things in there to absorb the water. But our goal is to get all of the rainwater that collects on the surface of this parking lot, which is an impermeable layer, divert it to this rain garden where it can then evaporate or be used by the vegetation in that area. The overflow will then go through that culvert you can see and then work its way over to the brook.
The brook, yeah, okay. So we've got a garden here too.
Yeah, we have a little bit of everything going on.
That's great. And is the traffic pattern going to change now? Can I drive through here to get?
Yeah, so right now you can drive through. There's ongoing discussion now whether to make that entrance next to the Superette and the adjoining property one way. So the goal is to try to get the traffic to come in through there, either park in the Superette parking lot or the parking lot here, and exit out to Green Street where you can safely make a left or right.
Perfect.
To get on your way onto Washington Street.
That's great.
Yeah.
Oh, this is and it's almost, you're waiting for Eversource, but once that's done, how long do you think it'll take?
It won't take long. I mean, once we get the pole in place, that's when they'll do the final, paving of this, because we don't want to have big trucks driving over a nice, paved surface. The railing here is scheduled to actually be installed later this week.
Okay.
So that's going. There's going to be a nice stainless steel railing going all up on this side. So our goal is once the pole's in place, within 2 weeks to have this parking lot fully operational.
Great. All this is going to be neat because it's all going to be done in time for the 300th anniversary.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's great. We've talked about a lot of projects here today, a lot of them major. But there's one looming in our future, and here's why we're here at Cross Street. What could possibly be happening here, James?
So we're looking at this site as a potential location for a new DPW facility. This site used to be a former Axton Cross chemical company, where they used to do all sorts of mixing, sort of like the pharmacist of the chemical industry went on at this site. Unfortunately, some of those chemicals leaked into the ground. This has been a site that's been looked at by the EPA and the DEP for many, many, many years as a site that needs to get remediated. The previous owner, Axton Cross, is no longer. The company is now defunct. The town is in the process of taking over this property through failure to pay property taxes.
Okay.
It is in land court right now. If the property comes out of land court and the town chooses to take possession of it, the thought is to use this as a possible site for DPW. In terms of the size, it's a perfect location for a new facility.
How big is it?
So the property itself is about 6 acres. The building itself is going to be about 45,000 square feet. And it'll be a combination of the water department as well as the highway department as a combined location. This building behind me, the plan for this would be actually a substation for the fire department. Currently, the fire department is renting a garage over on Pope Road. The plan is to stop renting that location, put a fire truck and an ambulance here, and actually have ambulance staff stay at this location.
Really?
That will free up space over at Central Street, which will also
Yes.
still have ambulance services, obviously, but this will help service the residents and businesses on this side of town. So that's the plan for that property. You know, it's a complicated site. I mean, it's not, you know, it does have some contaminated issues. Some of the chemicals have a certain, what's called a half-life.
Yep.
And it's been past their half-life, so they've been dissipated. But since the town technically doesn't own this site, we don't have authority to enter it.
Sure.
To do further testing to determine, you know, what can be done to try to remediate it. The good news is that both the DEP, the EPA, and even the brownfields coordinators want to work with the town to get this property cleaned up and reutilized and reviable, and to put back to use. So of course we're looking for funding to help with that project, but as well as, you know, these government agencies have certain authority to allow possible access to the site to continue our evaluation to see if it truly is viable to be utilized for a new facility. But regardless, it's got to get cleaned up.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
I mean, you can't just let it be the way it is. You know, it's looking quite favorable, but nothing's finalized until, you know, we take ownership and we truly understand what's here to see what can be remediated and cleaned up.
Right. Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed, and it sounds like we're on the road to some kind of a solution.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
James, we're back here where it all started. This is one of the 5 historic cemeteries in town. This is the Central Burying Ground. What's happening in here, other than people being dead?
That's right. And actually a beautiful spot to come and visit. So it's almost close to 2 years now, I approached the CPC with a request for funding to preserve these cemeteries. As you said, there are 5 in town. The Central Cemetery, the South Cemetery across from Hopping Brook Park Road, the East Holliston Cemetery, which is on the other side of Woodland Street.
Oh yeah.
The Cedar Street Cemetery, they call it the Indian Burial Ground, up off of Cedar Street. And then the cemetery off of Gorwin Drive.
The one where the sharp turn is.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and you actually did some repairs right there. That turn has now got a railing.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so a number of all of the cemeteries are in disrepair in one way or another. Lots of overgrowth from shrubs and trees. A number of tilting and leading or broken or cracked headstones. A number of them are covered with moss and lichen, and so we went out to bid. They're actually firms that restore, and I'm using the word restore loosely because we're not trying to bring these back to pristine condition.
Sure.
It's to preserve them and prevent further decay. So we have contracted with a firm called Village Green Restoration, not to be confused with Village Green here in Holliston.
Yep.
This company is based down on the Cape. And they're going to be starting in about 2 weeks here at the Central Cemetery, and they're going to document all of the stones. They're going to straighten out the ones that are bent, the ones that are cracked or leaning. They will fix. They'll repair with actually carbon fiber rods the stones to reset them. A number of the foundations you can see over at that marker there have eroded away. They will fill that in. And then they'll do what's called a light mechanical cleaning. I mean, you can get a chemical stripper or chemical cleaning. We elected not to do that. We just want to get the loose lichen and moss and things off the stones to make them as legible as possible.
Yep.
And again, this is a preservation effort. The goal is to get this done before the 300th celebration, which start a year from this coming December.
Okay.
And 300th anniversary. We're going to start here at Central Street, and then we're going to work our way over to the South Cemetery, where Jacob Miller's tomb is.
Oh yes.
And some observant drivers may notice that the front facade of that has plywood on it.
Yep.
It's because it ended up falling forward and leaning, so we're bracing it. As part of this restoration effort, that tomb is going to get rehabbed, the face, and rebuilt.
Yeah.
Once that's complete, they'll move over to the East Holliston Cemetery, then the North Cemetery, the Indian Cemetery as they call it, and then lastly the one off on Corwin Street.
Okay. About how many graves are in these? Is this in total?
So there are about close to 1,000 graves throughout town on all these various cemeteries. Most of them are in this location here.
Uh-huh. Could I still get buried in one of these places if I needed to be?
I think there are, I'm not sure about this particular cemetery, the Central Street, but I know there are family plots at the various cemeteries in town. So
no kidding.
you could elect to be buried there.
If I'm
as
the
well.
right family, yeah.
If you're the right family, right,
Okay.
exactly.
Cool. So, so that's an effort basically funded by CPC, you said, right?
Funded by CPC.
Okay, yeah.
That's correct, and that funding is again to clean up the cemeteries. There's some tree work. You can see some dead limbs and whatnot.
Oh yeah.
Unfortunately, you see a number of the broken stones over this way.
Yeah.
And those broke because a tree branch, you can see it actually came off the tree, came down and landed on the stones.
Bad. Yeah.
So we want to clean up it's called upbranching, the dead branches and trees to help prevent those types of things from happening in the future.
Okay. What about the other cemeteries in town? How does that work?
So probably the most known cemetery is the Lake Grove Cemetery. There's also a cemetery off of South Street. Those are actually owned by a private entity and are not owned by the town.
Like St. Mary's is owned by the church or the archdiocese, I guess.
Yep. And the Lake Grove is obviously owned by Lake Grove, as well as the one on South Street is owned by the Lake Grove Cemetery. So those are not the responsibility of the town, and the upkeep of those locations are by the private entity.
Okay. So there's a story when the town hall was renovated in early 2000s. Tell me what happened then.
So as part of the restoration and modernization of Town Hall was to bring in additional electric power. And you can see over here is a big green transformer. When they started digging for the foundation of that transformer, they actually hit an unmarked grave.
Wow.
You know, the initial thing, the police were called, because, it was human remains.
Yeah.
They went in through carbon dating process and determined to be, well over 100 years old. There weren't anything current.
Yeah.
So we went through the Mass Historic Commission to figure out what to do with these remains. After a lengthy process, it was decided to reinter them into the ground, and they're actually reinterred over here. Again, we don't know who they belong to, but at least they're back here in the cemetery. The former town administrator, Paul LeBeau, actually got a small little wooden coffin from the Christmas tree shops of all things. And they put the bones in there and reinterred them in a little ceremony over here in the ground.
Okay.
Another interesting little fact is that this building, came after the cemetery. The cemetery was here first, and then the building was built. It's hoped that the graves that were over on this side of the cemetery were moved at the time of the building, but there are some grave sites in the front of the building.
So you discovered those through
a ground penetrating radar. So we were going through a process of putting in a new septic system for the town hall, and we needed to know where we could put the leaching field. And one of the possible spots was the front of town hall. But having known that there were potential graves there, we figured we better check. So we hired a firm did a ground penetrating radar scan. They got a signature of an existing grave and then scanned over in front of town hall and matched that up. And sure enough, we found other folks that are buried in the front of town hall with unmarked graves. So we immediately called the state, the Mass Historic Commission. More bodies. They said, thanks for letting us know. I said, what do we need to do? And they said, just leave them in place. Don't disturb them. This is the paraphrasing from the commission. They look at cemeteries as parks, spaces where people should feel free to roam around and walk, reflect, look, read the stones. So the decision was made just to leave everything alone. Obviously, we're not going to dig up in that area. They're down about 3-4 feet, and so they're there, safe and secure. And that's what's has been decided to do with those graves up there.
Very good. We finished our tour here at the Central Burying Ground, and as the sign says, here's where the original settlers, the first 3 ministers, many victims of the Great Sickness of 1754, veterans of the Revolutionary and Civil Wars, prominent citizens, benefactors, and others worthy of remembrance are here. For the Heartbeat of Holliston, this is Chryso, Lawless.